Welcome. We hope you are ready for another scintillating episode.
We know you've been chewing your nails waiting for
Yes,
release.
we've been gone for a little bit. So we're here with It's Not a Meisner podcast with Kevin and Carson. I don't know why I said it was scintillating. We're the furthest. We don't have a lot of scint.
No.
We're not very scintillating. We're the furthest thing from scintillating.
Yeah. Well, we're making a podcast about what are we making a podcast about?
Well, that is interesting because you and I, about a year ago or so, said, let's do a podcast. And the first thing we said was, let's not make it bells and whistles and, you know, celebrities and how to get that job and all this shit. It's like not sexy. We just talk about the work and we hope that who do we draw? People who really are interested in this work and want to just be actors who understand a craft and can bring themselves to it. And they don't necessarily want to be superstar celebrities. They have something to say, and hopefully we can help them to sort of make sense of it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we sort of said that we don't want to be. It's very niche, and it's not even as an acting podcast, which could easily be some sort of thing that you and I are selling.
Yeah.
Right? We were trying not to sell anything. But I don't know. Having said that, we could be a little sexier.
Yeah.
I don't think. What we need? Clickbait.
Kevin Kittle clickbait. That's
Don't
really
you think?
take.
Don't you think when we send this out, people should go, "Ooh, I gotta check on." You know what we don't do? We don't spill the tea, Carson.
No, we don't.
Whatever the fuck that means.
I can't believe I'm a little bit shell shocked here that you said that. I never would have thought Kevin Kittle would say spill the tea.
But we don't do it enough. People should tune in to hear you and I
spill the tea.
Yeah. I mean, I am drinking my throat coat tea right now, and I did spill a little of it before, but I don't think that's what they mean when they say spill a tea. The truth is, I did want to talk about this a little bit. Lately, I've been talking to, this has come up 2 or 3 times recently with former students of mine who are out there, different places in the country, LA and in the South and in New York, and they want to keep their chops. So they are looking at acting classes. And, you and I have said we do not want to be the podcast that does anything but talk about our own work and what we know about it. Meaning we don't want to judge and we don't want to sort of trash other teachers and schools or whatever. So I hope I'm tiptoeing around that. But I have heard too much from former students that they've checked out acting classes that are just not conducive. And, they're taking people's money and God bless these people. Somebody told me about this horrible class. And I said, well, what were there, like 6 people in there? And they said, no, there were like 20.
Wow.
And there was like 20 people who are getting this sort of misinformation or this idea about acting that's not helpful. But that means there are 20 people in that area who feel passionate enough about it that they want to further themselves in it. So having just said that we're not sexy enough or we need clickbait or whatever, I think I am going to make a plea to all of you listening. Please, actors that tell them about our podcast and hopefully they'll hear just simple, practical, words that are not trying to sell them anything and are not steering them wrong. And, we're not packaging it like, well, come to these first classes and then pay me this much for the rest of it. But I worry that there are people out there who are getting this training and they don't know that's not it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it must feel wrong in some way, right? If you go to a class and it's not serving you, don't you somehow go, something's missing? Or do you just go, this feels cool, so I'll keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your experience. And I also think the students and people you've known who have come to you saying, this class isn't it. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Not in the sense it doesn't work for them. It's just pedagogically incorrect. speaks a lot about those people.
Yeah.
Have a point of view that is able to teach themselves. Because that's the end goal of studying, is that you become your own teacher, right?
Of course. Yes. Yes.
So being able to go to a class and being like, this is not right, instead of just being like, well, I'm the student and you're 100% right on everything.
Yeah.
Using your critical eyes, that's a real valuable skill. So, I mean, kudos to them too.
Yeah, but do you have to get to that? Like, what if you're young and you don't know? I just worry that somebody would be like, well, I don't know, so this must be it. But it's either not furthering you or worse, setting you back in some way,
Yeah.
you know?
Let alone the money aspect.
Oh my God. Anyway, you and I sort of promised that we weren't going to be that, where it's like, do it our way, or there is those of you who are long-term listeners, you'll know and remember the very first episode. I said, I do not claim to be any expert on this. I just know what I know, and I think I have a way of communicating it. So, in no way am I saying those people are wrong and I'm right. I'm just saying I worry because I've heard this now from multiple people who have said, yeah, I'm trying to keep my chops. So, I found a class. Ay, ay, ay. And by the way, worse than finding an acting class that's not so great, a straight up Meisner class. Somebody who says, I'm teaching Meisner. And then they go, like, look, man, it's like I always said, there are people who misunderstand Meisner, but worse, there are people who teach it who misunderstand it. So I think I am saying, if you're listening to this and you know people who want to understand something, at the very least, maybe tell them to listen a little bit to us. I hope what we're saying is practical and valuable and simple and not bells and whistles. And we're not trying to call attention to anything other than the work.
Yeah. Well, and there's nothing wrong with being, I mean, you're saying like, what would a young person who has no other idea know how to gauge what's correct or incorrect or something that's worth putting time and money into? I think there's nothing wrong with looking into the provenance of a teacher. Not saying they need to have the highest pedigree, but just knowing everything comes from somewhere. So you're just like, where did you learn your stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
See where it's coming from,
I think I don't know if you saw this, but one of the comments on when we did the demonstration of repetition, one of the comments on YouTube was some teacher said, I showed this to my 10th grade class and they all were riveted by it. They loved it and it helped them to understand. That was the greatest day I've had in a while.
Yeah.
That somebody would say, young people who are starved for this watched your entire YouTube hour and a half or whatever, last hour and something of a demonstration of repetition, and they got it. They understood it. It woke something up in them. We're like, oh, it can be that.
Exactly.
So that made me feel really good. So maybe I'm saying if you're out there and you know someone who's teaching or you know students, ask them to check us out, and maybe we'll say something that cracks cracks the code for them.
Yeah.
All right. That sounded a little self-serving, but I promise we're going to go back to being our stupid selves.
Yes, we will.
Right after we come back from the intro, we're going to be the biggest dummies. We're going to be the big knuckleheads you expect us to be.
Exactly. And nothing we say will make any sense.
Correct. And that's coming up in the next after 10 seconds. It should not be acting training. It should be actor training.
Am I a good actor?
Like me doing. It's not a Meisner podcast.
There it is.
Well, today we wanted to do something I think is very valuable in the sequence of Meisner, which is opening up the activity. Now, it occurs to me that there are some people who maybe have never even heard that term, because I studied with people who've never used that term, and I studied with people who taught me how to teach who do use that term. So when we use it today, there will be people who say, oh, I know what you're talking about, but I never heard it called opening up the activity. Okay. So in order to open up the activity, I do think we need to review the independent activity. And the notion of crafting, right? By the way, I do think fairly soon we'll do an entire episode on crafting because it occurs to me we use the term crafting quite a bit, but there are people out there who might not know what the hell we're talking about. So the independent activity, asks you to craft details that you make a reality. You're crafting a reality for yourself, right? Now let's remember in the independent activity, there are certain, quote unquote rules. It must be extremely difficult for your concentration.
Mhm.
You have to have an external standard of perfection, something outside of you that tells you what this thing looks like when you've accomplished it. So you don't get to decide for yourself, oh, well, I'll just fudge it a little. You can't. It has to be exactly what that external example is. And if it isn't, then your reality will fall apart. You have to have with you everything you need in order to accomplish it. You and I talked about this. Some student will sit down and tell me they're building something, and then they'll show me the external example, and it'll be painted. And I'll be like, where are your paints? And of course, they're going, I didn't think I would actually finish building the thing. So I thought I'd never get around to painting it. To which I go, so then you don't believe you're actually going to accomplish this. You're not up there to finish it. You're up there to be an acting student in an acting class doing an acting exercise. But no, you must be a person in a reality who's actually working to achieve something, to accomplish something. And in order to do that, you have to have everything with you so that when you're done, you can go, there it is, it's all done. But if you don't bring everything up there with you, then you're fooling yourself or you don't believe yourself that you're going to accomplish what you say you're up there to accomplish. All right. Don't be an actor in acting class. Be a person in a reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Eventually, you must add a reasonable time limit. In this amount of time, I could get this done. But you got to get good at crafting right up to the second. Because too much time, and you're going to be like, la, 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 I don't really have to get it done. Too little time, the only experience you're going to have is hysteria,
Mm.
right? You're just going to be like, off the charts. I don't have enough time. Well, you're bypassing the central nervous system when you're living in hysterics. Okay. So you have to be able to craft time. And then finally, ultimately, you give yourself a concrete and personal reason why you're doing it. A concrete and personal reason why you're doing it.
Mm.
And then that brings us to the really important question. When you're crafting, to me, you have to craft all of those particular practical things. But the only reason to craft all of this is for this two-word question. And in the real world, it's a very rude, snotty question. The question you ask yourself is, so what? And if you can't answer that question, then you're not going to come alive.
Mm.
People take a lot of stuff for granted. So let's just say, I'm going to try to skim through this. Let's say you're a young student, young enough for this to matter, 17, 18, whatever. You live at home. And your father has this model car. He's a car guy. And he's got a little model of a car that's like, it's his prized possession, loves it, keeps it on a shelf. He doesn't let you anywhere near it, right? And then they're going away for the weekend, the parents, and his father's like, don't have a party while I'm gone. And you're like, of course not. And then, of course, you have a party and everybody's drunk and throwing shit. And the car falls off the shelf and breaks, right? So what? And if you answer, well, I'm going to be in trouble. What? That's ridiculously general
Yeah.
and generic. Can you name what trouble it? How are you going to be in trouble?
Right.
All right. So if you can keep asking, so what? You got to keep going. So what? It broke. Well, I have to fix it to a perfection. So my father will never know that it broke. He'll walk past it every day and never know that it was broken. That's how perfectly I fixed it. And then you go, well, why do you have to fix it? So what? Well, if he finds out that I had a party and that this broke, then I'll be in trouble. What does trouble mean? Oh, I'll be grounded. So what? You just keep asking. Because what a cliche, right? People go, I'll be grounded, and assume that that's a bad thing. So what? You're grounded. What does it mean? I have to stay in my room for a week. That's all you do anyway. All you do is on your phone and video games, and all you do anyway is stay in your room. Oh, I'll be grounded. What'll you do? Play video games. That's not grounded. So what? In fact, parents these days, if they want to punish their kids, they should say, "You're not grounded. You have to go out." Oh, oh no. Right. But do you see what I mean? Like, we'll rely on cliches. I'll be grounded. Do you even personally know what that means? No, not
Right.
really. Well, what does it mean? Well, if I'm grounded, I can't go out Friday nights. So what? Well, I finally got Penelope Fletcher. I just made up a name. I finally got Penelope Fletcher to agree to go out with me on Friday night. Oh, so what? Now you start to think this has to be a real person, right? You cannot craft around some made up person. And by the way, it could, if you're you know, a, a woman or a gay man, Philip Fletcher, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? But assuming you're a heterosexual man or a lesbian, Penelope Fletcher, as soon as you say that name, you start to feel, your heart starts to flutter, and you get that kind of shake. Now you're on to something. You've made it personal.
Right.
Penelope Fletcher, right? Or Philip Fletcher, whoever. The second you go, oh shit, then you go, well, so what if I miss that date with that person? Well, now you have to start crafting. Well, I've been kind of friend zoned a little bit. This person knows me and likes me, but they don't take me seriously enough to go on a date. Now you got to sit with Penelope. When you first have a crush on somebody, their smell, when you smell somebody that you're into, oh my God, that's enough. But also their laugh is intoxicating. But especially when you're the one who made them laugh, like if you say something and they laugh, you're like, oh my God. And she's going to go out with me, not as a friend. She's like, she thinks I'm serious. But the reason she doesn't take me seriously is because, my stupid friends. Oh, you mean the ones you invited for a party who got drunk and broke your father's fucking car? You know what I mean? So if you say to her, I got to break our date on Friday, why? I was hanging with my friend. Forget it. She's going to be like, you're not serious. So now so that sounds like a long way to go to grandma's house, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Sometimes it's a long way to go to grandma's house to find she isn't home, but she is home with this because you can trace it right to it.
Mm.
Fixing this car to perfection in the amount of time I have, my dad's coming home in an hour. I have an hour. He's going to walk in and see me gluing his broken car. Oh my God. I have to fix it and put it back on that shelf in an hour. Fixing that car is a straight line to canceling the date with Philip or Penelope Fletcher. So what? If you can answer the so what, I'm going to lose my opportunity to have that person in my life the way I want them. The second you name something that gets you fluttering a little, when your heart your pulse pounds, you found it.
Mm.
Penelope Fletcher. But you still have to go, so what?
Right.
Because you could go, well, so what? She'll give me another chance. No. So when you're crafting,
You're muted.
I accidentally muted myself. That's how excited I got, Carson. This all comes from Meisner's notion of the reality of doing, right? If you're on stage, you better be fucking doing something. And Meisner said, well, what if we really pin down the doing so it takes 100% of your being?
Mhm.
You don't have 1% left over to be self-conscious or to be aware of anything else. The worst thing you could be aware of is I'm an actor in a play and people are looking at me. So you pin it down to it's very difficult for my concentration, and you pin it down to if I don't do it, there'll be a terrible consequence. Or if I do achieve it, there will be a great reward.
Mm.
But you also have to fill in a lot of blanks. Otherwise, you will have what we call holes in your crafting. There can't be a hole in your crafting. To us, a hole in the crafting is you did not identify a certain detail in your reality. And the funny thing about it is, even if you don't consciously know what that hole is, your sense of truth will find that hole. If the hole is this big, tiny, the truth will find it and get sucked right out. And you'll be up there going, why don't I believe in this? Because there's a hole in the crafting.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And this is also a practical skill that isn't just for the Meisner technique or accomplishing the Meisner technique, because this never goes away. This crafting and activity never goes away. Ever. Every scene you do, you think about this stuff, you know?
what you are practicing, among other things, is crafting.
Yeah.
Right? Barbara Marchant used to say to me, when you have those students in their early days, you better make sure they know how to craft. Because if they can't craft an activity, they can't be in a play. Because it
Right.
means they don't understand the elements that go into a scene in a
Yeah.
play. They don't understand.
Well, you're also learning how to direct yourself a little bit, at least setting up the scene to work in your favor. I mean, I'm in a class right now, and it's not a Meisner class, just a scene. We just work on scenes. And a great thing happened the other week where they get someone gets a really important phone call in the scene, right? And they put the phone right at the table where they were sitting. And our teacher was saying, well, how much smarter would that have been if you put the phone across the room? You ran out of ink in your pen to write down what they're saying on the phone, and now you have to go find a pen while you're on the handheld phone, you know? And that's the same thing as crafting. You just made it harder on yourself, which is such a gift to yourself. And you learn all of that when you're doing crafting like this, you know?
Absolutely. And check out that teacher who saw it.
Yeah.
A teacher, I know who you're talking about, who is an actor herself. And so, of course, she's like, don't you see the
Yeah.
value of fucking yourself up? Like, set it up to give yourself problems on
Right.
stage. And the addressing of those problems, by the way, not even the solving of those problems, the addressing of those problems is your life on stage, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the all important so what? Until you can answer, so what? You haven't fully crafted. Once you go, oh, I don't have any more so whats. I know what it means if Philip Fletcher says, don't ask me for another date. You're not going to get one. I know what it means. All right. So, how do we open up this activity? I have to say, unless I'm misreading, in Sandy Meisner's book and in Bill Esper's book, I can't see where they consciously and purposely open up the activity.
That's interesting.
I think they assume it, but I could be misreading. I got the opened up activity from Barbara Marchant, who taught me how to teach. Now, when I studied it as an actor in class, meaning I got up and did this work, Maggie Flanagan, great teacher. I don't ever remember her calling it the opened up activity. And I don't remember her ever saying, we're going to open up the activity and here's how. I think she was such a good teacher that it just happened and she never had to call. It happened in an organic way where we just suddenly were doing it that way.
Interesting.
And when I worked the bill, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
But Barbara, when she taught me how to teach, I'm not sure she calls it to her students. And now we're opening up. She might just do it, but she let me know this is what I'm doing. I'm relaxing certain things, right? So here's the thing about the opened up activity and why it's so valuable. It's the first time that you get to choose for yourself the experience that you want to have.
Hmm.
Look at it this way. In the original independent activity, the factors are such that you are only going to have a very limited experience. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be angry. There may be tears. You may cry out of frustration or hurt, possibly. That's it. Now, I worry that teachers who keep their students on the independent activity for too long, the actors start to fall in love with anger, frustration. It feels like acting. It feels good. Oh, I'm so alive. I'm shaking. I'm whatever. Feels good, you know? Then you try to open up the activity. They can't let go of it. And to this day, I still meet actors who are trained in Meisner. They still resort back to Meisner is anger and yelling and snot flying and fuck you, right? That isn't it. Meisner's the one that unfolds in perfect adjustment from unanticipated moment to unanticipated moment. Well, perfect adjustment could be silence.
Mm.
It could be you could be bemused or amused. You could be living through something that's not like off the chart, scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 12, screaming and yelling. When you open up the activity, you actually get to say to yourself, and I love this phrase, what part of my actor's temperament do I want to give a workout to? It's like going to the gym
Mm.
and you choose what you're going to work out. I've never been to the gym a day in my life. I don't know if you can tell, Carson, from looking at me because I'm so swole. I'm very swole. Once again, I don't know what the fuck that means, but I have heard it. So I don't know. Going to the gym, what would you work on? Your lats? What's a lat? I'm going to work on my lats today, wherever those may reside. Do you know what I mean? Though you go to work on your your biceps, your abs, or whatever, and you
Right.
do exercises that work out those particular things. So here you say to yourself, what part of my actor's temperament do I want to give a workout to? And there's so much opportunity there. But then you have to choose the details of your activity that it's going to work that temperament out. Okay? So another way of looking at it is when you do the independent activity, the original, you tend to start with the activity as an acting student. You go, I got to find something that's hard for my concentration. House of cards, origami, ship in a bottle, you know, a jigsaw puzzle, all of those things. They take all your concentration. Then you craft around that, right? Here, you're a little more opened up, and in fact, here you tend to say, "What part of my actor's temperament do I want to give a workout to?" Then you craft the thing that will allow you to live through that experience, right? So, what opens up? Opportunity for you to live through things. A workout in, what did Walt Whitman say? I contain multitudes, right? You know what's interesting about that quote? People always say I contain multitudes, but they really miss the full quote. The full quote is, do I contradict myself? Fine. I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes, right?
Wow.
Which really helps with our acting, the old 90-10 thing we talked about. You contradicted yourself. Yeah, because I do have 90% of that thing, but I also have 10% of the opposite of that thing. They live in me. So here's an opportunity to work out things beyond just anger and frustration. Okay. Now, here's another thing that Barbara Marchand taught me, which is amazing. You could also help your students by saying, craft the most fill in the blank, right? The most embarrassed, the most proud, the most romantic, right? You're doing the most righteous, right? Wow, what opportunities, right? Or you could add EST, the stupidest, the funniest, the sexiest, right? But it's the most of a thing because Meisner said, I'm training you to hit a home run, not bunt for a single.
Yeah.
So again, for those who don't know baseball, bunting is when you purposely hold the bat loosely in your hands and deaden the ball. So it goes 3 feet instead of 300 feet. But when you take batting practice, you practice swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
You practice driving the ball. So you want to hit it 300 feet, right? But then you can also practice driving it into the alleys, right? Between the area between center field and right field or center field and left. You actually practice driving it, right? But back in the day when baseball was a little bit more nuanced, they practiced bunting. Nobody really does it anymore. But back in the day, a game could end 1-0. And the one run came across because somebody bunted and the guy from third came running home, you know? So bunting is valuable, but these days you don't practice bunting. Now, why do you practice swinging for the fences? Well, you have to know what the most of a thing is so you can get the degrees of it,
Yeah.
right? So another way to look at it is let's say you have a 10-gallon bucket and it's empty. You can fill it with 10 gallons of water. That's great. But you could also fill it with 1 gallon of water. Oh, so your 10-gallon bucket holds a gallon. But it doesn't work the other way around. If you have a gallon bucket, it can't hold 10.
Right.
When you fill it to 1, you stop there. That's it. That's all I got.
Right.
No, there's 9 more gallons. You need the 10-gallon container. Then you choose. Oh, I'll fill it with 4. I'll fill it with 7. But when you do an open up activity, you go the most. I'm going to craft around the most. This is the most embarrassed I could be. Then you craft the circumstance that will make you embarrassed. Okay. The other thing that's fun about it is there's degrees because there's devastating embarrassed and there's funny embarrassed. So if you craft, I made a bet with my friends and I lost the bet, so I have to do this really embarrassing thing in public, you're going to be horrified, but you're also going to be laughing your ass off
Right.
because it's a funny thing that your friends will get enjoyment from. But you could also craft a circumstance where you are, no, straight up humiliated, embarrassed, mortified, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are degrees. There are degrees of sexy. Like I'll have my students work out hot sexy. Like, no, this is sexy, hot. Someone's coming over.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go to fuck city. And I don't know, I don't need GPS. I know how to get there. So their activity is like really hot. But sometimes they go, no, I'm crafting goofy sex, like funny sexy.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
sex can be very fun and funny, or you're doing it wrong. So some kind of goofy thing you're doing, and then it's funny for your partner. It's funny or silly, but it's rooted in sex or sexuality and
Right.
the relationship you have with that person, right? So the other way you could do it is the day I had to be, because I'll often say, what's the Passover question? What is the question that's asked at the Passover Seder? Why is this night different from all the rest? An important question. Now, the actor's answer has nothing to do with Elijah. The actor's question is the circumstance. Why is this night different from all the rest? Because this is the night such and such happened. So the night I had to be strong, the night I had to be, the most. I remember when I was about 19, my father's sister, his younger sister, she was 10 years younger than him. She was only in her early 30s. And she had 3 kids under the age of 10. And she had got breast cancer. And she was dying. And I was alone in my house. This is the house that I lived in with my family, my parents, my brothers, but I was the only one home. And the phone rang. It's 1979. So back then when the phone rang, it was on the wall and you answered it. Right? There was no fucking caller ID or any of that shit. So I just answered the phone. And I can't remember who, my cousin or somebody said, "Get your dad." And I said, "He's not here." And they said, "You have to go find him because his sister's going to die tonight. The doctors are saying she's not going to make it, and they're gathering the family." So I was like, "Where is my dad?" And back then, it would have been a bar. Like I knew to go find my dad in a bar. And I went to the first one I thought he would be at. And I remember this like it was yesterday. When I walked in, he was sitting with friends and drinking and talking. And when he saw me, his face just lit up. Like he was so happy to see me. He was like, "Hey, my son's here. We're gonna have a drink." I said, "Dad, we have to go." Aunt Nancy was her name. Her name was Anne, but they called her Nancy. I said, "We have to go. Your sister's not going to make it through the night." And he just was immediately devastated. And I drove him there. He wasn't going to drive. And, I drove. So I'm 19. I'm driving my dad sitting next to me. And he is crying his eyes out. And I'd never seen my father cry. 19 years, I never saw him cry. He was devastated and crying. And he kept asking me questions. At that time in my life, I was exploring God and religion and that kind of stuff. And he said to me, "You believe in God, right?" And I was like, Yeah." And then he said, "Why? Why does this happen? Why would God?" I'm like, "Dad, I'm 19. You want me to tell you why God would kill your sister who's 10 years younger than you?" Because there was that gap. And also, she was an angel. She was the one. Maybe because the first three, two brothers and a sister, were older, and they got up to some shit. And then 10 years later, she's born. She didn't get into any of that shit. So she was just good. And then she got sick and was wasting and dying. So when I drove him there, I realized it had flipped. I had to be the father. I had to be strong. So I'm driving, like, I want to lose it too, because she was amazing and I loved her. But I'm like, keep your shit together. So I had to be super strong, even though I wanted to lose my shit. And then as soon as I got him there and got him into the room so he could see his sister, I went out. This will tell you, Carson, this will tell you. 1979, in the hospital, I light up a cigarette. I'm in the corridor of the hospital smoking. But that was me going, "Shit, that happened." I had to be strong for my dad. So I'm smoking a cigarette. Then my mom comes around the corner. She looks at me. She goes, "You smoke?" I was like, "Oh, great." I went right back to being the kid. Right back to being the kid. I'm like, "No, mommy, I don't smoke." You caught me with a cigarette. But the point is, I would never use that in crafting because that really happened to me. So I don't use my real life.
Right.
But it's the kind of example of like, do I have a father? Yeah. Do I have an aunt? Yeah. How does my father feel about my aunt? XYZ. Is she sick? No. Well, what if she were? What would I do? Right. So you ask yourself, what if, fill in the blank, and then what would I do about it? Okay. Here's how you open up the activity. You relax things. The first thing you relax is the standard of perfection. There is one. There isn't one. Or let me put it this way, it's your own standard. So you're not relaxing what it looks like when it's done compared to something else. It's how you see it and how you want it to be done. Okay. You relax the external uh, so that it's not difficult externally. It's not difficult. It's emotionally difficult. It's not difficult for your concentration anymore. This is where students have the hardest time. When they first get up to do an open up activity, it still has an element of it's hard to do and you're concentrate. No, it's not hard to do because it takes concentration. It's hard to do because you're so alive with the experience of the thing that's what's causing you trouble in finishing the thing, right? It's cyclical. We'll talk more about it. All right. So no more external standard. It is no longer difficult for your attention or concentration. It's difficult for your emotions, and you relax the time limit. You no longer have to do it in an hour, right? You could have hours to do it, but there is still a time limit because everything exists in time. So when we say you're creating a reality, well, in reality, everything exists in time. But you could say, I'm doing something and that I don't have to, it's not until 8 o'clock tonight or tomorrow morning, but it does have to get done. You're driven to do it. But why are you driven to do it? Because I have to achieve this or accomplish this for the reason. Okay. So the examples now are my girlfriend says I'm not romantic, right? Or my boyfriend says I'm not romantic. So I have to do the most romantic thing. So you're up there living out your sense of romance, and you can become so romantically involved in it, like feeling so romantic that it's ruining the your doing of it. Now you suck at being romantic because you yourself are getting all caught up in it. So you say to yourself, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for my boyfriend or girlfriend when they come in. And if I don't get it done, I'm just going to be that asshole who sucks at being romantic because I didn't get it done. All right. So now you get to choose how fun. Also, you will find yourself not so wedded to the table, right? Because usually something that's difficult for your concentration, you're doing it tight and at a table,
Right.
even though you could be doing something physically. You know, a very, very complex dance step is hard for your concentration. So you're up and dancing. Great. But you tend to be wedded to the table and hunched over a thing, you know? And here you're like, oh, fuck, I get to be sort of up and moving around and okay. Um, if this helps at all, and I don't know if you find this possible, there's two versions of it that are kind of related to when. When is this? And one version is now. It's happening now. I'm making a video
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
So I am doing the thing now.
Right.
And when I'm done with the video, I'm going to press send, you know? Um, you could be decorating the room in some way. So that's what you're doing now. You could be making a care package of some kind that you're sending to someone. Well, I'm doing it now. I'm
Right.
packing those things now. But another version of it in terms of when is I'm practicing this thing in my room for later. Why are you practicing it? Because when I go to do it later, I don't want to suck at it. So practicing it means I'm getting ahead of the shit that might hold me back. I'm perfecting something for later.
Right. Like there's the old example that's always used of like singing a song at grandma's funeral. You know, like you're heard of that because there's only one time to do it. It's
Yep.
it's interesting. This it reminds me of this quote I found the other day from my favorite actor, Mr. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh yeah.
It was a quote I had never heard before, and he was not a Meisner actor, we should say. Nor I don't really like the term Meisner actor or Strasberg. You're an actor and whatever works for you. But he didn't train in Meisner per se. And he wrote, to have the concentration to act well is like lugging things up staircases in your brain. I think that's a thing people don't understand. It is exhausting. If you're doing it well, if you're concentrating the way you need to, if your will and your concentration and emotional and imagination and emotional life are all in tune, concentrated and working together in a role, that is just like lugging weights upstairs with your head. And I don't think that should get any easier. But it makes me think about crafting for activities or working activities. That's the point. It's to make it harder on yourself. I had a great clown teacher who always said, make it worser.
Make it worser.
You know?
That's great.
Um,
That's
so
so good.
in an era of like, how can I make this easy? How can I make this efficient? How can I no. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you make a choice and it feels better and therefore it feels easier. But it shouldn't. The preparation should never feel particularly like a breeze.
And if it does, you're probably not doing it right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You're skipping something.
Yeah.
Anything worth achieving better be fucking hard.
Right. Yeah.
And it takes steps, and you cannot skip a step. Lugging something up the stairs. Well, you're going to end up back at the bottom of the stairs if you skip. You might as well take it one stair at a time. You might as well do all of the steps that it takes. And it is hard, but that also weeds people out too, doesn't it? Sometimes, I've been in ensembles and even class where people you don't see them you show up and you go, where's so and so? They took themselves out of it
Yeah.
because they realize, oh, this is what it takes. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. That was great. Anytime you got something that Philip Seymour Hoffman said, share it with us. We both love that guy. Um, hey, remind me the next time we talk. Did you read that interview with Kristen Stewart in the Times?
About method acting.
Yeah, very
It's
interesting.
fascinating. Yeah.
Let's talk about it next time
Yeah.
because it's not really this. I think it's about crafting. We'll talk about crafting
Yeah.
next time. Such an interesting thing.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
you can go read it, and then for next episode, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, let's do that. Here's your homework assignment, everyone. Go read Kristen Stewart's. I really like her a lot, by the way. Go read her interview in the New York Times.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about crafting in our next time.
Yeah.
Although we hope next time we have a guest. We think we have a guest lined up.
Well, in a couple episodes, yeah.
I think you're all going to love our guest. So we're working that one out.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about crafting next time. But back to the opened up activity. So here's what happens with the opened up activity. Acting is fun again. It's fun. You go, a woman in my class once years ago crafted that her boyfriend always wanted to have a threesome. It was one of his fantasies, and his birthday was coming up. So she gave him a threesome, but she was both women. He split herself right down the middle. And she was Korean. And one side was like an anime, that schoolgirl uniform that they wear in the anime. One side was that, and the other side was dominatrix, like total leather and a whip. It was hilarious. And she kept turning. So when she turned to one side, she'd be the schoolgirl. She turned to the other, and she was like, she was the tough. And she was having the time of her life. And here's me. Was that the sexiest or the funniest? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was the funniest and the sexiest. Because I remember when her partner came to the room, here's another thing, y'all. When you open up the activity, it changes the knock and the person who comes to the room. And when her partner came to the door, he was like, oh, shit. And then he got a little taste of what she was doing. And he was like, oh, I wish I was your boyfriend. And she was like, it's not for you. And she slammed him out the door. It's not for you. And slammed him out. He was like, oh, let me back in. It was funny and playful, but also rooted in sex. I'm going to give my boyfriend a threesome. Whoa. That's a bit bold.
Right.
The other example, of course, is what you just said, like your grandmother passed away. Well, what you're doing is fighting the emotional experience you're having. So if you were that woman with the threesome and she was both women, she kept laughing and that ruined it. Because if she laughs, it ruins it for her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And if she can hold it together and really play that girl, high school girl or whatever, and then really play the dominatrix, it's better it's a gift for the boyfriend. But as she was getting it together, she kept cracking up. And then she would have to sort of stop herself and be like, pull your shit together and then start again. What happens is if you craft well, it's cyclical. that the act, the reason to do it causes in you the experience of it, but then that experience causes you to stop to be bad at doing it. She was being bad at being sexy because she kept laughing. So the grandma funeral thing that we talk about is I'm going to sing a song at my grandmother's funeral.
Right.
Well, but how do you feel? Devastated and sad. You ever try singing when you're sad or crying? You don't have any breath.
Yeah.
Crying fucks with your breath, but singing needs breath control. Well, look at the cyclical nature of this. What happened? My grandmother passed, and this is her. Uh, tomorrow is her funeral.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm going to sing a song for her at the funeral. Okay. What are you doing here in the room? Practicing the song. Why? Because when I get up there, I don't want to lose my shit and just start crying.
Mm.
Somebody then will come up, my uncle will come up and be like, "That's good, thank you, you tried it," and and take you off, and you'll be like, "I never sang the song." Or
Yeah.
my grandmother, "I fucked it up by crying." What do you why you cry? You're making it about you when you cry. You're not there to cry, you're there to give this gift
Yeah.
to your grandmother. Remember you and I talked about this once. If you're crafting inventively, you're not singing a song at your grandmother's funeral. You craft, this is the song my grandmother always sang me to sleep with. When I was a child, she would sit by my bed and sing the song to me, and I would fall asleep. So now I'm inverting it. I'm singing her to her sleep. I'm singing because she's going off to sleep.
Right.
Great. But if you start singing, you get so overwhelmed with the crying, they're going to come up and be like,
Yeah.
okay, then you go, "I never sang my grandmother." If
Yeah.
it means something to you, then you didn't do it. Well, now I'm in my room practicing it so I don't lose my shit tomorrow.
Right.
But you're in the room losing your shit. Then you start feeling like, God fucking damn it. Get your shit together. I'm being too indulgent. I'm crying. I got to pull my shit together. I got to sing this song and get through it for my grandmother.
Well, and this is another topic, but something we should have an episode about, Kevin, on theatrical, like theatricality. What is theatrical? Because I was just trying to think, of a young person listening to this, what we're talking about now with opening up the activity in, Alabama or Wisconsin or something in their small town, and I'm thinking, well, if I was that, I'd probably be like, "What do you mean dressing up like a dominatrix and a
Yes. Yeah.
why am I doing my grandmother's funeral? Why am I doing that? That all sounds a little bizarre." But I think, the first thing that was told to me, I think by you when we started doing this work, was the average person and us in our own personal life will only feel what we call a level 10 emotion, which is what we're practicing here, so many times in their life.
Twice.
But the characters you play often are always experiencing a huge emotion, because that's why the play is being written, because it's an ordinary person facing something
Yes.
extraordinary,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's theatrical. No,
Well, of course, think about it this way. Why is this night different from all the rest? Every play is about that character having that night that's different from the rest.
exactly. Yeah.
The night I had to go pick up my dad and drive him to the hospital, that was a night that never happened to me again,
Right.
you know? So, yeah, you have to give yourself a work on it. And I do understand what you're saying. That young person listening might be like, I can't imagine it. Yes, you can.
Right.
Your
Yeah.
imagination has the capacity. What I notice with young students is they will always say to me, I always love this one, I would never do that in real life. And I always say to them, "It's interested in your real life.
Yeah.
When did we ever say that this was your real life?"
Yeah.
And there are people who misunderstand. They go, theater is a replication of real life. It's not,
Well,
because in real life, you're always full of shit in real life.
exactly. I had a teacher in college who always said, "Well, that's why they don't write plays about you."
No. Oh, that's terrible. That's why they don't. I would never do this in my real life. Well, that's why they don't write plays about you. Because in your real life, you're tiny and you hold back. And even if you do have the opportunity to experience something, you crush it, you call it something else, you avoid it, you deny it, you reject it, right? But your character in the play is having an experience. Now you can craft how the character experiences. Could you craft a character who's rejecting and denying and avoiding? The character is. But you, the actor, you better have given yourself a workout on a scale of 1 to 10. You're at a 10, not most.
Yeah.
So that when you're playing the character, you go, oh, this character is feeling a 10, but I see what they're doing here. They're releasing it out of 6, but I know what the other 4 is.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity to work through your actor's temperament, but it can't be your pedestrian, mundane way of doing it. Now, I will say this: singing a song at a funeral is not a fucking bizarre, out there, weird thing. That is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Singing a song at a wedding. My brother's getting married. How do you feel? Oh my God, I love him so much. And he asked me to sing, so you sing. But
Right.
you're singing while they're walking or down the aisle, or you're singing while they're standing. You get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I do. When I'm at a wedding and I turn around and I look at the bride, I always go like, it's never not extraordinary that somebody is declaring their love for someone else in front of people. It's the most overwhelming, beautiful human thing. I always get overwhelmed. And on top of it, I might not even know the person. And I'm like, here we go. But if I know if it's my cousin or my friend, here they are in that dress, I'll forget it.
Yeah.
It's not nothing.
Yeah.
But if your boyfriend wanted a threesome, you might be like, fuck you. I'm not gonna sleep with you and another woman. Fuck you. Instead, you go, okay, I'll give you a gift. And the gift will be me being cheeky. Like,
Right.
honey, I have a surprise for you. It's a threesome. And your boyfriend's like, oh, yeah. And then it's you. That's two different women. He's going to love you more. He's like, that's why I love you, because you're funny and inventive, but also you will not let me get away with any bullshit of
Right.
wanting to have a three-way. I don't even want a three-way now that you did that. I
All right.
realize you're the woman. You're the woman. Why the hell would I want to be with anyone else?
All right.
If you think beyond, if you give yourself permission to daydream and imagine,
Yeah.
what if, God damn it, what if, right? Here's the other thing about this. We'll try to wrap this up soon. Here's the other thing about it. You craft for one thing, and when you leave yourself alone, other things pop up, and you realize I contain multitudes. One time, a guy did an activity where he was in his room practicing because he knew he had to do this thing and he had to keep his shit together. So he was practicing doing it. He crafted that his younger brother did something inappropriate with a girl in school. They were like 10 years old. And the brother didn't realize he was doing something and touched a girl in an inappropriate way. And it is wrong and it's inappropriate and he should be taught. But here's the thing: his brother's autistic and doesn't realize. But his mother said to him, my student, you're the older brother. He looks up to you. You're the only one that can explain to him the
Right.
birds and the bees. You know what I mean? You got to give him the sex talk. So my student was sitting in a chair in his room practicing. He had made an entire book and he drew it, and it was a bird and a bee, right? And I think the bird had a penis and the bee had little breasts. Like he made a
Yeah.
boy and a girl out of it. And he was reading the book the way you do. You put it on your
Right.
lap and it faces out. And he was practicing having to talk about sex with his 10-year-old autistic brother. Well, he was cracking up laughing. The book was so stupid. And
Right.
also that embarrassed, like, I cannot believe I have to tell my brother about penises and vaginas. He was just flushed with embarrassment, but also laughing, like, I can't believe I made this book. And it was a great workout.
Right.
By the third or fourth page, he started crying.
Mm.
And by the sixth page, he was angry as fuck. He was so angry. Afterward, I said to him, what was all that? He said, I started to realize my brother is autistic and he doesn't understand. Fuck you for making him feel like a pariah. Fuck you for making me have to tell him the school should sit with him, the mom. But he found out, he realized what this was really about was he thought it was about fun and embarrassment and silly and whatever. But he realized I'm my brother's advocate here. And I started to get upset that I had to read this to him. I was upset that he's autistic. Then I wasn't upset that he's autistic. I was fucking pissed that these people did not care for my brother, that they didn't take care of him. And they made it all his fault. And was it his fault? Yeah, you're not supposed to touch someone like that. Of course you're not. But they really shamed him and made him feel terrible about it. Right. So I just found that absolutely fascinating. One other example of that is this was not in an opened up activity, but I saw it happen where a woman had crafted that she was with some guy in bed, and then the guy's wife came home and she had to run out of there with like no clothes on, and she had to wrap a sheet around herself. And it was very funny. But as it went on, she started to realize, oh, fuck, I'm the other woman. And she got devastated. So it went from being very funny to being like, "Oh my god, I got caught, and I'm out here in a sheet. I'm knocking on the door. Help! Give me some. Help me out, something." But the more it went on, she started to cry, and I was like, "What was that about?" She's like, "I fucking realized I'm the other woman," and she felt terrible about it. These things go all over when you're working well, and then you leave yourself alone. They go all over the place.
Right. Right.
They work out everything you're capable of, the capacity you have as a human. Okay. So, those of you listening at home, your homework, make a list.
Yeah.
The most proud I've ever been, the most devastated I've ever been, the angriest I've ever been, the most sexy, the most romantic. Those are two different things, by the way. Sexy and romantic are two different things,
Right.
right? The most humiliated, the most embarrassed, the most mortified, the most,
Yeah.
and find the variations on it, because you and I talked about how Stanislavski said there are only 7 emotions.
Yeah.
All right. What are the degrees of them? Funny how?
Yeah.
Well, funny sexy. Or funny practical joke with my friend. That's not the same as funny sexy with my boyfriend or girlfriend.
Exactly.
But it's still funny.
Yeah.
Sexy how? Hot sexy or goofy sexy. Like my significant other finds it very sexy when I act like an idiot in a certain way.
Mm.
It just makes them laugh. Okay. So the last thing we'll say about it is what we already said. It greatly affects the knock on the door, because when you're alive with the independent activity, you are frustrated or angry or whatever. And then there's a knock and you go, ah, fuck you. Ah, don't come to my door. But if you're here laughing your ass off because you're practicing or you're putting together some practical joke for a friend of yours, you're laughing your ass off. And then there's a knock, you're going to answer the door laughing. Now your partner is like, oh shit, something funny's going on. And they might start laughing too. They don't even know why. Okay. It affects how you answer the door. If you're doing something sexy in here, you may not want to answer the door. I'm not opening the door.
Right.
I'm doing something in here. You know, something private and personal. I'm not opening the door. Then maybe you find out who it is. You open the door a little crack. It's dark in the room, but you don't want them to see because maybe you're wearing some lingerie or underwear or bathrobe of some kind or something. You open the door a little crack. Of course, your partner's going to have a moment of like, the hell's going on in here? You know? Well, I was feeling sexy, but now I feel embarrassed because this isn't for you. And I opened the door. Okay. I contain multitudes. You want to add anything before we get the heck out of here?
No, I mean, I just think it's so important that all this sounds, like this is the Meisner activity, but like I said earlier, it's never going to go away. And to the last point of what you said, coming to the door in the activity or starting a scene in a play or in a film, what a gift that you're giving to your scene partner to start with so much life and so much ongoing life and moment before and what you would be doing if your partner wasn't here. That's being a generous actor, and that's the most important part of our job, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Your job is to do all of that so that when you're in rehearsal, we go, okay, begin the scene.
Right.
Or on set, action. You are already alive and you bring this gift to your partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Cool.
Great.
All right. Well, that's that for the opened up activity. I'm not quite sure if our next episode will be with our guest, or maybe we'll talk about crafting or some other topic, but maybe that's the clickbait.
There you go. There's our clickbait.
That's people will not, when I say that what did I say? What did I say?
Filling the tea?
Yes, filling the tea, or what did I say it was? Welcome to our, I can't remember what I said.
Our scintillating?
Scintillating. I can't remember the word. Maybe that's our scintillating thing. You don't know what you're going to get next.
And that's because we don't know.
That's all right.
All right.
See ya. We'll see you next time.
Au revoir.
Toodles.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Meisner Podcast.